Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Avenir 2020. Allow me to briefly introduce you to the institute and the department. Established as the Roorkee College in 1847, our institute was rechristened as the Thomson College of Civil Engineering in 1854. Formerly known as the University of Roorkee, this institution also happens to be the first technical university of independent India. In the year 2001, it was elevated to the status of an IIT. Now coming to our department, it was commissioned in 1998. The Department of Management Studies rightfully believes the juxtaposition of theory and practice is what turns MBA into a fruitful venture. With eminent faculty from both academia and industry, the department also boasts a large number of research scholars. Coming to our achievement and our awards, it is a matter of great pride for us that IIT Roorkee was ranked first in management in India by Times Higher Education World University Rankings for Emerging Economics 2019. While IIT Roorkee as a whole was ranked the third best university in the country, it was placed at 35th position globally. IIT Roorkee also secured first position among the IITs in the citation per faculty parameter by QS World University Rankings. Leaving many reputable B scores, including many IIMs, over the last 3 years, IIT Roorkee has consistently figured among the top 10 MBA colleges in India as per the National Institutional Ranking Framework brought out by the Ministry of Human Resource Development. We are ranked 12th as per the NIRF 2020 and first in the parameter of research and professional practice. Students here actively participate in various national and international level competition and exams. A few highlights have been mentioned here. 4 students have cleared CFA level 1 and one has cleared F level 1 in 2019. 4 students have backed All India ranks in top 15 in Flip National Challenge 2019. Many have won accolades in various B schools events held in IIMs, IITs, and other management colleges. Now looking at the demographics of the batch 2020. It was batch of 77 students having an average work experience of 25 months. The pre-placement offers witnessed a gigantic 300% increase as compared to the previous years. Some of our recruiters have been KPMG, RBS, Infosys, HCL, Future First, and several others. Now coming to the demographics of the batch 2021. It is a batch of 48 students and has an average work experience of 23 months. The summer placement offered a variety of roles and experiences. Some of our recruiters have been KPMG, RBS, RBI, DIRA, Hyperwatch, and several others. Now coming to our batch of 2022. It is a batch of 71 students and has an average work experience of 24 months. This is also the second batch after 2021, which included students from commerce background. So that was all about our department. Now I would like to welcome our guest of honors. Today I am deeply honored and delighted to welcome Mr. Senapati Kris Gopalakrishnan. Mr. Gopalakrishnan is the recipient of the Padma Bhushan awarded by the Government of India for his contribution to the Indian IT industry. Mr. Gopal is one of the co-founders of Infosys. Currently, Mr. Gopalakrishnan is the chairman of Axilor Ventures, an early stage startup accelerator and venture fund. With his long industry experience, I firmly believe that students at Dawn's IIT Roorkee will benefit immensely from what he has to offer through the medium of online event. So, without further ado, I request sir to proceed. Sir, you can continue. Sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, sir. You're perfectly audible.
Thank you. First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me to IIT Roorkee Department of Management Studies, and let me compliment all of you for creating a platform where I'm told that you're listening to speakers for the last 2 days, right? So compliment all of you for that, and the whole focus is on leadership, and I thought I will share my perspective using my experience to talk about leadership. And let me share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So I will talk about the idea of leadership from my experience, but focused on creating a brighter, better, more equitable future. And I'll come to that actually. To talk about creating a future, during the pandemic that we are facing may sound a little strange, but the reason I do this is that even in the pandemic, there are opportunities. There are opportunities to, look at new innovations, look at new products, look at new services, look at a better future, a new normal of uh, some people would talk about actually. So the best way to predict the future is to create it. The former U.S. President Abraham Lincoln is said to have, said this actually. So he's credited with this quote actually, the best way to predict future is to create it. That's another reason for me to actually share my thoughts here, because indeed, you are the people who are going to create this future. Over the next 30 years, you will create what I hope to be a better world. And I'll come into this as we go along. Before I start, we are in the midst of a pandemic, and I hope all of you are safe, your family is safe, your colleagues are safe. Currently, the best way to prevent the virus from spreading, protect yourself, protect your family, is to act responsibly. Wear mask, wear mask, keep social distancing, wash your hands frequently, etc. And please act responsibly because it's left to us as individuals to follow this. You require self-discipline to protect self, family, business, employees, economy, and nation. All of these are in each one of our hands, actually. You can update your skills during this time. This is a period of extreme uncertainty. And it's quite surprising that even in spite of the whole world trying to understand the virus, trying to figure this out, we still have not found a solution to this challenge. We hope that pretty soon we will have a vaccine and the uncertainty will come down. And life is full of twists and turns, and I have experienced this in my entire life actually. You think that you know where you're going, but something happens and you need to take a deviation, you need to take a different path, and that happens often because there are many things that are not under our control. In fact, there are more things that are not under our control than under our control. And in that sense, one of the key characteristic that all of you must develop, habit or let's say characteristic that all of you must develop is being resilient. Learn to be resilient. That means you actually learn to navigate these twists and turns. And I like this quote again that's attributed to Charles Darwin, who came up with the theory of evolution. It's not the most intellectual of the species that survives. It's not the strongest that survives, but the species that survives is the one that is able best to adapt and adjust to the changing environment in which it finds itself. And that's the key, to adapt and adjust. And we have all learned to adapt and adjust. So for example, this seminar itself is being held online. I'm sitting here in Bangalore, and many of you are probably dispersed around the country. I don't know how many people are in the campus, but you're dispersed around the country and listening to me. It has its advantages because it uses my time very efficiently, all of your time very efficiently. We don't commute. We can be at our home and participate in this. It's also advantageous because digitally you can reach a much larger audience, and time, distance, etc. Don't matter because you're recording. I'm quite sure that you're going to post it in some website where people can listen to this in the future. So time, distance, etc. don't matter when you do things digitally. So I'm going to talk about your student life briefly. So the first three, if you're passing out now, if you're passing out next year or beyond, if you're a startup co-founder, and then I will switch to commenting about the future and creating a better future, and I'll take you through that. So if you're passing out now, and the profile of the students was given, very impressive. A lot of you are already placed, so congratulations. But the job scenario is going to be challenging during a crisis. Some sectors are doing well. If you look at IT services, if you look at telecom, if you look at e-commerce and retail, they're starting to come back. So there are certain sectors that are doing well. Certain other sectors, for example, hospitality or travel, tourism, they are actually challenged at this point. And so depending on where you got placed, you have to actually navigate this. So if you can, I would actually advise you to continue your studies and delay looking for a job at least by a year or so. If already placed, please find out when to join because sometimes the joining dates can change. Update your skills based on your employer, and have a plan B. It is possible that in some circumstances, and I hope it does not happen, some circumstances they may actually revoke the offer. They may have to revoke the offer because their business is not doing well. Especially if you are a small or medium enterprise and things like that, it is possible that they are not doing well at all. Now, if you're going abroad to study, track how classes are going to start, when they are going to start, when you can travel, etc. Because that again is a challenge now. Most colleges around the world are starting classes online, and some have requested you to join in their country, but many have asked you to join online digitally. Now, if you are passing out next year or beyond, um, you have some options. Please find out which businesses are fast growing. Track these for future employment. So track high growth companies, fast growing companies actually. The reason I say this is the opportunities are more in order if you join a high growth company where you will get faster promotions, more responsibilities and things like that. If you're choosing a major or minor, please find a wave to ride on, and I will elaborate this as we go along. Basically, you need to pick a trend, pick an area which is hot at that point, and major or minor in that. In my case, I was lucky to get into the computer field way back in the 70s, and 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 that was when the computer field was actually starting to take off, and I took full advantage of that. I also recommend all of you to look at volunteering, and the reason for that is you will get some experience doing things in leadership positions, managing projects and things like that, and that experience will be very, very important when you take up employment in the future. Intern with startups in the field chosen. You may not choose to later on start a business or join a startup, but that experience also, I think, will be highly appreciated. So these are some of the things that I suggest that you look at if you are going to pass out next year or beyond. Now, if you're a startup co-founder, and this I said is very difficult, right? What you need to look at is having a runway, a plan for the next 24 months. There is uncertainty about when things would improve, when things will become normal, etc. So plan for the worst case scenario and look at the next 24 months. What do I mean by runway? What I mean by this is have enough cash so that you don't have to go out for funding over the next 24 months, even if revenues are depressed, even if there are no revenues, you should be able to survive. I think it's very, very important. This is really what I meant by saying that, you need to be resilient. This is building resilience. As individuals, for example, we need to look at our health. We need to look at how we exercise, how we eat, and things like that, so that we don't fall sick. We increase our immunity and things like that. Have a plan B. Plan B means support from current set of investors. They are the most appropriate and most interested in your survival. Make sure that you are in touch with them, you keep them informed about your status, and seek support from them. Most investors will support their investee companies because they don't want to lose out on their investment. So if you're doing a good job of managing the situation, they will definitely support you. Pivot and get more current revenues. So look at repurposing your product and see whether your product can become relevant in the current circumstances. So, for example, I have an investment in a company which was into physical gyms, etc. They quickly pivoted and created a digital exercise routine, and suddenly their gym is now online, and they do even one-on-one coaching online, and their revenues have increased because now they are global, right? So they now even have customers in the US, etc. So this is what I mean by looking at pivoting your product and things like that. Look for M&A, at least you have a home for your company. And last but not the least is see whether you can freeze the business, maybe take up a temporary job elsewhere, be a consultant elsewhere, and restart later. So now I switch to looking at the future, and we will divide this into in the short term, in the medium to long term. And in the short term, there are opportunities if you look very closely. Never let a crisis go to waste. And we have seen this actually. In the crisis, we have seen the transition to digital accelerating. And this is why I believe that all businesses will be different in the future. The um, the um, the digital content in everything that we do, our life and our work, etc., have significantly increased. Work from home is the way in which many businesses are now performing their tasks. Many workers are performing their tasks. Teleworking, remote working, online collaboration. So work from home has increased, and those companies that can move to a work from home format are actually doing well. The IT services companies, for example, have quickly transitioned to work from home, and they are actually doing very well. Second is the contact-free economy. People are afraid to touch doorknobs or checkout counters or products and things like that, and everything is now becoming contact-free. Actually, you just show your mobile phone near the terminal, and you pass through. You reach a door, and the door opens because it has a sensor to detect people. things like that. So, all buildings, all businesses are looking at contact-free economy. Financial transactions are becoming digital. Learning is becoming digital. Business meetings are becoming digital. E-commerce is really taking off. Telemedicine was very low before the adoption of telemedicine was extremely low before the pandemic, actually. And by necessity, telemedicine has really taken off. And I would say that now 60 to 70% of the consultations, especially in urban areas, are using teleconsult mode, using digital technologies. In the BPM, business process management industry, robotic process automation is really taking off. It's automating the business processes using AI and machine learning and things like that. Similarly, media entertainment, this is one industry that's actually doing extremely well because as we stay at home, we are consuming more digital content. And the transition here is, it's personal. All of us consume these on our personal devices. It's asynchronous. So we watch a lot of recorded stuff. It's interactive. It's digital. Interactive in the sense that while we watch, we can interact with our friends and things like that. We can interact with the show through social media and things like that. We have seen unprecedented collaboration, and suddenly you think why we were not enabling collaboration like this before between industry, academia, startups, government. And again, necessity makes us do this because there is now global collaboration on research, especially on the virus, collaboration on vaccine development between civil society and industry in terms of trying to help the affected workers and things like that. So there's unprecedented collaboration. Another form of collaboration is localization. So we see now farmers bringing their produce to a apartment complex or a suburb and selling it directly to consumers. Previously, they would sell to middlemen, and middlemen would sell to the local store and things like that. But all of that is all those steps and all those intermediaries are being eliminated, and farmer is directly selling to consumers, and that I hope will sustain beyond the pandemic. Similarly, the local kirana store is, in the early part of the pandemic, was the only way we could actually buy groceries and things like that, and they have started accepting orders on WhatsApp, etc. And delivering it to home. Again, a very interesting change that has happened, and the local kirana stores, I believe, will sustain this so that they can actually compete in this new digital world, and they become relevant in the new digital world. Indian economy is full of commerce with the local kirana stores. They are the most active people from whom we buy groceries and things like that. About 50 to 70% of the purchases are from the local kirana stores. Similarly, local tourism, which means you drive to where you want to go, which is within a radius of maybe 200 to 300 kilometers, and you don't take a train, bus, or flight or something like that, but you tend to drive. So there is a pickup of vehicles. I'm told that in the last 1 month, all the automobile OEMs have seen actually significant increase in their demand and production. In fact, they're struggling to actually keep up with the demand. So that's a good news, actually. So, the economy is starting to come back, especially that part of the economy. Our dependence on science and our belief on science has increased significantly. There's a race, as I said, to understand the virus. There is a race to find cures and vaccine. The number of papers, both non-peer-reviewed and peer-reviewed papers, have skyrocketed. Actually, there are, estimated to be about 24,000 peer-reviewed papers published to date on the virus and the pandemic, etc. It's an amazing, change that we have seen suddenly. But again, this is something that is very good. And all the things that I'm talking about are showing opportunities for us to take advantage of in the short term. There are challenges, and these challenges are getting amplified in these pandemic times. And some of the challenges are that poor are affected badly, especially the daily wage earners. Many of them lost their job working because people didn't want them to come for work, etc. And so they didn't have any way of making a living. And fortunately, a lot of voluntary organizations, NGO organizations came forward. The government also came forward to help them through direct benefit transfer and things like that. People working in informal sector. And the digital divide is also getting amplified and becoming more visible because as our life becomes digital, classes, meetings, work, there are many people who can't participate in this because they don't have access to internet, they don't have access to a computer or a device that they can connect to the internet and things like that. Older people, people with comorbidities are more at risk. Again, that's a disparity that's getting amplified here. It says that we need to be a lot more aware of our own health. And I see that actually people are becoming more healthy today or living healthy lives, etc. Because of this awareness. People with comorbidities are more at risk. Older people are more at risk. We are seeing the two-speed economy. Certain businesses are doing well and certain businesses are significantly affected. And I talked about hospitality, travel, tourism, businesses that are severely affected. And the healthcare system in developed and developing economies are showing again signs of significant weakness. If you look at the healthcare system in India and the healthcare system in the US, most advanced country in the world, both are showing signs of weaknesses and stress in these pandemic times, actually. And again, that's a significant opportunity for us to fix the healthcare system. So I looked at the short term and the opportunities in the short term. So even in a crisis, we see opportunities. How the local kiranas have actually transformed themselves, how certain industries have transformed themselves, how our dependence on science has increased, how regulatory changes happen faster because we want to enable ease of doing business and things like that. Now we will switch to opportunities in the medium to long term. And this is where I want to emphasize to all of you, the future is not a linear extrapolation of the past. Future is created integrating past experiences, inventions, and innovations to today and current circumstances. So future is actually created, built by people, by businesses, by governments, etc. And all the things that we do today create that tomorrow, create that future. Addition or removal of constraints influence the future. I don't know, you are all too young to have seen the movie Back to Future, where the hero is able to actually go back into the past and he is careful. He was actually warned not to change anything in the past, actually, because it is possible that he actually goes and sees his parents when they were quoting and things like that. And he was warned, if you change something at that point, you may not even be born, right? So you can actually affect the future. But anything that you do is going to affect the future, your future, the future of businesses, organizations, and the future of the country. And you need to be clearly aware of that, actually. And that's why the choices you make are very, very important. What you do makes significant impact, can have significant impact, and everybody should be aware of that. It's deeply influenced by leaders and entrepreneurs. A disruption in the technology space or a crisis can actually accelerate the change, and that's why many people believe that we will have a new normal after the pandemic. We are not going to go back to life as before, and it will be a reset in some sense. We are always looking for a faster, better, cheaper way to do things using better tools and technology, and that's progress. That's why innovation is very important. That's why startups are very important. That's why new businesses are very important. Entrepreneurship as an activity is very important. From my own example, I joined the computer industry in the late 70s. I did my MTech computer science from IIT Madras between 77 and 79. 77, 78 time frame is when Apple introduced their Apple II personal computer. So I was there at the same time when the democratization of computing started happening. Individuals could actually now use computers. You can have a and things like that. And we saw that because of the introduction of personal computer as a productivity tool, business processes were getting automated. A lot of software need to be written to doing this. And we saw an opportunity to leverage India to create this software, to develop the software and deliver it to the world. India was a lower cost economy, is still a lower cost economy. That is why India is an ideal location to develop software. Of course, even more important is we have the talent. We have the educated talent that can actually write and create the software. So leverage the abundant talent that's available to develop software at cheaper cost. And that's how we created the successful IT services business out of India. It seems very simple when I say this, but I can assure you that things were uncertain in the late 80s and 90s, etc. We had to work very hard. We had to think out of the box. We had to create that future ourselves, and at a different forum, I'll probably take you through, how the software industry was built, but from nothing, really nothing. Today, the industry is $190 billion. It's world class, employs 4 million people, and almost all global companies today use Indian services, IT services, or have their base in India. And so we actually created this, and I'm part of that, and I'm proud to say that the industry has become world class and is recognized as a world class industry. So you saw that riding on the wave of digital computing, we were able to create this industry. Now there are significant number of innovations that are still amongst us, and significant emerging technologies are there. Computers, smartphones are there. IoT is really starting to take off. The telecom infrastructure is adopting 5G, so more bandwidth with same or lower cost. Internet, of course, is already there, but internet is reaching more people. Connectivity has become ubiquitous. That means you can get as much bandwidth as you need and at an affordable price wherever you are. It's still not there, but we are slowly moving towards that. Sensors, cameras, AR, VR, it's part of the IoT move. When you think about IoT, see, today we have about maybe 6 billion or 5 to 6 billion smart devices around the world, computers, smartphones, etc., tablets. But in the future, we will have somewhere around 50 to 60 billion IoT devices, and each device is actually a small computer. And once you have a computer that's like that, distributed around the world, you can actually get data from that and control that device actually using that computer. So it becomes intelligent. And this revolution is also called an intelligence revolution. Combine this with the cloud computing infrastructure. So at the back end, you get access to infinite processing and infinite storage at very low cost. So that's a powerful combination, right? Computing everywhere, pervasive computing, invisible computing, intelligence everywhere, enabled through cloud computing, internet, the ubiquitous connectivity and things like that. Other things like 3D printing, which can change manufacturing, new materials, AI, ML, genetics and code of life, which will transform biology, which will transform healthcare. And this whole revolution is called Fourth Industrial Revolution, where physical, digital, and biological innovations and advances are creating a completely different, completely connected, interconnected new world, where physical, digital, and biological things are interconnected. Biological interconnection means, your wearable devices, your embedded devices in your body, which will talk to computers at the background. So you're connecting biological things to digital things. Every one of these revolutions, the second revolution, the third industrial revolution, etc., created significant transformations in the world. And the fourth industrial revolution is also expected to create significant transformations in the world. Every industry will get impacted because of this, and every business will have to adopt to these changes, or they don't survive. And that's why startups will come and replace these existing companies, will become the new leaders and things like that. Some companies will fail, new leadership will emerge, and I've given some examples of how some industries can change. For example, healthcare, with connected devices, telemedicine, genomics, personalized medicine, robotic surgery, we see healthcare completely getting transformed, actually, digital healthcare. Government of India also has announced the National Digital Health Mission, and they've come up with new standards for electronic health records and connected digital healthcare and things like telemedicine, etc. Financial services, India is, I believe, a leader in the innovation in financial services. We have payment gateways, we have account aggregators, and we have come out with a model which I believe is unique, which I believe is one of the best in the world. And hence, I strongly believe that every industry will change, and in some areas we have an opportunity to create the new models for the world. I picked up biotechnology and data sciences in the next slide because I believe that again, India can take leadership here. In the area of biotechnology, we can actually track health parameters using embedded IoT. We can actually design and modify life in the lab through the tools of genetics and things like that. We can create life in the internet. You may have read about Elon Musk's experiments here, where he's trying to connect the brain to the internet and things like that. Human computer interface is changing. We are engineering the immune system to fight diseases, immunotherapy. Even if you read about President Trump's treatment, he was injected with Regeneron, which is nothing but lab-created antibodies. Lab-created antibodies, actually. It's a new way of creating antibodies, and we are engineering the immune system to fight diseases. And this, again, actually is very promising, because there are many diseases which we don't have cures. Many types of cancers don't have cures. Diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, we don't have cures yet. So the future looks actually brighter with some of these new techniques and technologies. And last but not the least, forever we are trying to be young forever, right? Slowing down or reversing aging, and all of these things are possible. And I hope that some of you, work in some of these areas actually. Data is also a very important commodity in the future, and the whole area of data business is very, very important because we are producing large amounts of data. Using this data, we can create intelligence, and with the new tool AI ML, that becomes easy to pass through these vast amounts of data and create actionable intelligence and things like that. We can automate, sense, and respond. The 50 billion IoT devices around the world, if they're interconnected, sitting here in India, in your home, you can actually connect with anything anywhere in the world, and you can automate the sense and respond. There is an opportunity to cleanse this data, because to use it for training AI and ML systems, the data has to be cleansed, they have to be tagged. So this is a high growth area. Lots of businesses are emerging in the area of tagging data and things like that, eliminating biases in AI and ML, because one of the downsides of AI and ML systems is it's only as good as the data that you use to train the system. If the data is biased, then you will find that those biases remain in the AI and ML system. I will quickly go forward. And the other wave, and I truly believe that this is a wave, is India itself. India is a huge opportunity. We are the second largest consumer base. I was part of this journey over the last 25, 30 years of seeing the growth in the Indian economy. In 1993, India was a $600 billion economy. Today, India is $2.7 trillion. That means the economy grew 4 times, or 5 times over the last 30 years, and I saw that. Now you have the opportunity to create a $10 trillion economy over the next 20 years. Imagine that, 2.7 to 10 trillion, almost 3 times, 4 times the size of the economy. Per capita income will go from $2,000 to $10,000. That again is an amazing opportunity, because when you cross $5,000, $6,000, then the country is considered to be a middle-income country, middle-class country. And again, that transition is huge. I saw this transition in the last 25 years, the number of choices that we have in terms of automobiles, so many things that we now take for granted, internet, mobile phones, etc. They were not there 30 years back. And significant changes have happened. Even if 10 years back we were hit by this pandemic, we wouldn't be able to actually even manage like we do today, because digitization was not possible even for many more number of people. We today have several world-class companies, and we will continue to create world-class companies in the future. Enormous wealth to be made. We can completely transform the country. So the question is, what kind of India will you build? And again, I'm connecting back to this idea of creating this future. So India 30 years from now, what gives me the confidence that India will be different, India will be better, etc., is because I have lived through this. As I said, from a per capita income of $600 to $2,000, GDP of 600 billion to 2.7 trillion, middle class 50 million to middle class 350 million. But still, we have another about 1 billion people who are lower middle class, lower, poor, etc. And we need to actually transform their lives also. IT industry, just one industry, from 150 million to 190 billion. So significant change is possible. Looking at entrepreneurship itself, first generation of entrepreneurship was there, part of companies like Infosys, etc. But today we have 36 unicorns before the pandemic, number three best location for startups, etc. And we have the confidence to create more unicorn, billion-dollar companies, actually, billion-dollar market cap companies. You must have read about Flipkart being sold for $16 billion. They created the value of $16 billion in 10 years. So all of these are possible now. The youth, people like you, have tremendous confidence in yourself and in your abilities to create innovations, new businesses, etc. Now, we need to create an India model for development. What is going for us? We have 4 million IT professionals. These professionals are world class. They have worked with the best of companies in the world. They're confident about their capabilities, and the world wants them. These are truly global employees. The entire world wants them. Now, many of them are actually starting new businesses. They are the startup entrepreneurs, actually. The second, third generation of startup entrepreneurs. And that's very good because we have 4 million of them. There is this whole movement around Startup India. The startup ecosystem is becoming more mature. The VC industry is growing. The investments are increasing. The entrepreneurship is being introduced into colleges. There are incubators in academic institutions, and I'm confident in saying that IIT Roorkee probably has an incubator, and it supports startups in its campuses and things like that. We have a new education policy which focuses not just on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but also arts, social sciences, literature, etc. And that balanced view of education is very important. The new education policy also stresses a lot on investments in R&D, research, creation of a national research foundation. All of these are very, very important. And India is also planning to increase its spending on R&D. But more important than the previous slide, we want to create an India that's equitable, sustainable, inclusive. We want to create a new model for our cities, more livable, better cities, not polluted and things like that. We want to create 21st century businesses and business models. We want to provide healthcare, affordable, accessible, inclusive healthcare for all, leveraging technology. Even in agriculture, we need to come up with new models for agriculture, what I call regenerative agriculture. We don't deplete the carbon in the soil, but we put back carbon while doing agriculture and things like that. And it's possible. These techniques are there. We can use technology in agriculture and things like that. So everything that we can do to create a sustainable, inclusive, and equitable society, we must do. And this is my request to each one of you. So we want to create India that's more livable, best place for education, best place to work, best place for entrepreneurship, best place for sustained living, number one in research and innovation. It can be done. We can do this. And that's what I hope you will actually think about. So when you write your life story, what is the caption that you look at? I built the driverless car, or I'm just a passenger, being driven around by the car. Do you want to build a better India, a developed India? Do you want to help all of your fellow citizens achieve a better life? I think you need to think about this actually very, very carefully. And I hope that your choices are, I'll be building the driverless car. I will help build the better India, a developed India. I will help all my fellow citizens achieve a better life. We will move to a developed India. Let me leave you with a quote I like from Steve Jobs. When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside that world. You're told not to bash into the walls too much. That means not to, challenge the status quo. Try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money, but that's a very limiting life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact. Everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And let me repeat that actually. Everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. People like you, and I'm an example of that, actually made a difference. And you can change it, you can influence it. And once you learn that, you will never be the same again. So, India has an opportunity to grow faster. Emerging technologies will change every business and industry. That's a great opportunity. Innovation, entrepreneurship, and startups will drive most of these changes. Innovation within the existing companies in entrepreneurship and things like that. So everything you do, you try to make it little better every single day. Ecosystem to support high growth must be created, and most important, you must believe in this dream and make it happen. Thank you all very much. I hope we have some time for Q&A. I will stop sharing the screen and open for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation. Now, I would like to take up some questions asked by our batchmates. The first question is: do venture capitalist firms need to rethink their strategies while investing in startups? Will they become more selective as GDP is expected to contract by 9.5% in fiscal year 2021?
See, venture capitalists are always adapting and adopting. They see what the model the venture capitalists use is in a fund's life. A fund's life is about 7 to 10 years, and the first 5 years is the investment period, and the next 5 years, so if it's a 10-year fund, is the return on investment period. Actually, you're recouping your investments, etc. You're nurturing your companies, etc. And the first 5 years, they invest typically about 8 to 10 companies a year. That's all they do. So typically during the life of a fund, one fund, typically they invest in about 40 companies. And out of this, probably 4 or 5 companies bring significant returns. The remaining companies on an average probably will make 1x or less than 1x, or some will be closed down, and that means they lose their money. So they make all the returns on the 5 or 6 bets that they make. If those bets are very good, and they are extremely successful. So every investment is very carefully thought out. Every investment is well researched. Every investment is carefully done. And as part of the due diligence, they will look at the circumstances, they will look at the environment, they will look at what is hot, they will look at the innovations that are happening. So they are constantly on their feet looking at all these things. And for those 40 investments that they make, they will probably during those 5 years look at approximately, I would say, 40,000 companies, evaluate 40,000 companies. So they are actually very, 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 very selective. I can't emphasize that too much. If you're not, you're going to be a poor fund. You're not going to be a rich fund.
Thank you, sir. Next question is, with the emergence of data science as a critical discipline, what ethical problems does the data collection process create? How can they be tackled?
So this is a challenge every country is trying to address. There will be new regulations around how data is collected, what purpose the data is collected, how the data is managed, how the data is to use to provide services and things like that. Privacy concerns are going to be forefront. People are worried about their privacy. There are concerns about misuse of data, because data is collected for one purpose and then shared with others and used for multiple other purposes and things like that. As our life becomes more digital, it's all the more important that we have regulations around the use of data, the misuse of data, around privacy, around responsibilities of these data collectors to have the fiduciary responsibilities around ethical practices, using due care, the fiduciary responsibility to protect the data of the data principle and things like that. India is also coming out with its own regulations on data. The Sri Krishna committee has come out with recommendations on personal data, and I am chairing the committee on non-personal data for Government of India, and we have come out with our first set of recommendations on non-personal data, and you will see that governments take an active role in protecting the data of the citizens and prevent misuse.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, will advances in AI, supply chain automation and process automation wipe out the need for human intervention in organization in the long run?
No, the simple answer is no. See, when computers were introduced, we were told that they're going to replace people. But what has happened? Businesses has evolved. Businesses have grown. The economy went from 1980. Again, I go back to 1980. 1980, the world was $11 trillion. The total world's GDP was $11 trillion. Today, the world's GDP is $80 trillion. 8 times growth. More jobs are created. More opportunities are created. The economy grows. So, yes, some jobs will be lost, but if you are able to retrain yourself, if you make sure that you are relevant, and that's why continuous learning is important, there will be more jobs, there will be better jobs. Computerization, automation created more jobs in the past 30 years. And I'm confident in saying that with automation, yes, maybe mundane jobs will get replaced by machines, but there will be new opportunities created provided you stay relevant. That's the important point I want to make. Learning is lifelong, and you need to update your skills every 3-4 years. You need to stay relevant. Sometimes you'll have to change your profession and things like that because certain professions may no longer be relevant, and that's how life is going to be. Just just adjust and adapt. That's the key message again.
Absolutely, sir. The next question is, will the online education sector gain increased impetus in coming time?
So education itself will be hybrid. We will use online tools. We will use online mode, in delivering classes. But you cannot replace the experiences that you gain in being at a campus. Actually, learning to take care of yourself, being independent, away from family, making friends, creating the network that is going to be relevant in the future. Getting guidance from mentorship from your teachers, coaching from your teachers, all of this, that physical bonding that happens is not going to be replaced online, right? So yes, so that's why I say that it is going to be hybrid in the future. Man is a social animal, and we need people around us. We need to experience that. We need to enjoy that. And however much we try, looking at a screen with all the faces in front of me doesn't make me as close to how I would have felt if I came to the campus and met all of you physically, right? Maybe had a lunch with you people or something like that. That experience is completely different, and so we can't replace the campuses. No way we will replace these campuses. I believe, this is my opinion. But having said that, digitization of education is a reality. We need to accept that, especially in continuing education. So once you have built up this experience and learned from this and created the network of friends, etc., then you go out onto your job scene, and there education transforms itself more and more into digital and things like that.
Thank you, sir, for answering the questions. Now I would like Somnath sir to share a few words with us.
Thank you
Sir?
for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, is it for me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. and your experience is transformed so capabilities and your future. Is at IIT Roorkee to listen into your uh, uh, and and brought on the ultimately so this I will anchor. So
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for an absolutely ebullient session. We are grateful to you, sir, for inundating us with the valuable knowledge today. We are obliged to you for sharing your much needed insights on how to adapt and develop ourselves during these unprecedented times so as to advance in our careers. As the upcoming tech revolution in the various fields of businesses are upon us, we shall follow upon your wisdom by preparing ourselves for the future requirements of the market and employers. Your valuable wisdoms of never wasting opportunities will be with us and help us in our careers. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
And
all. Thank you.
and also, sir, I'm delighted to tell you on the occasion of Avenir, we have taken an initiative, Breaking Darkness. Avenir means future in French, and the best way to add meaning to the event would be to help shape the future and help someone grow. There's no better helping hand for growth than education. Each year, starting from this year, DOMS would be donating a sum to Hope Foundation for sponsoring the education of underprivileged girl child in honor of the guest speakers gracing the conclave. Thank you so much, sir, once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good night. All the best.
Thank you, sir.